What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. I am joined by my two partners in crime that we sit together in the press box. In the lower part of your screen is Mr. Cam Underwood from State of the U. On the right side of your screen is my partner in crime, Brandon O'Doy from Football Hotbed, and I am Brian the Beast London from my home in Cooper City. I have no other allegiances. In any event, fellas, we have not had a chance to talk since the end of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, since the season ended. So let's put a bow on the 2024 Miami Hurricanes football season. I already did my thoughts, so I'll let you two take the floor. Brandon, we'll start with you. Where do you go?
Well, okay, post Pop-Tart Bowl, obviously a disappointing loss to Iowa State, a good Iowa State team, I might add. The firing of Lance Guidry was apropos. This was something that had to happen. You wish maybe it happens a little bit sooner because at least you get an opportunity to possibly save a few recruits from the class. I don't know. And I'd love to hear you guys' opinions, how much that actually played a role. But it's easy to flip a guy when you can say, hey, look, do you really want to go play in that defense? And I think that, all the hubbub around Cam Ward not playing the second half, all that. Listen, stop the foolishness. He was only going to play a half. It was clear. Miami fans, people who cover this team, needed to know who Emory Williams was. Like, winning that bowl game is outside of just winning the game, having, another trophy to add to the millions of trophies that are in the Shaw Center down there, like the Sofa Center. It wasn't necessary. We needed to figure out, can you hand what has now become a legit elite program to Emory Williams? And we got the answer we needed. And the answer was, no, we cannot. And so that's all we cared about from that game. If you're a Cane fan. Now, I wanted to win the game. Well, you didn't win the game because you gave up 43 points. You know what I'm saying? And when you have a young quarterback coming in, people have to catch the football. And they have to catch balls that they probably shouldn't have to catch. But this is what you have to do when you have a young, quarterback. So those things did not happen. The transition has taken place. Cam Ward is not coming back out of that door. He'll be the first pick in the NFL draft. He was a generational talent, and I wish we'd gotten more out of him. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I think that's fair to say. I'm not going to overdo it. We left food on the table. And so everybody knows it. And I'm setting expectations for next year. Don't think this is going to be a CFB, Natty Championship competitive. Like, that's not how this is shaping up. This roster and this situation was built to win this year. This was the year. SMU was fool's gold. Okay, Miami gets into that championship. They beat the brakes off of SMU, outscoring them. They go and get a bye. Then they're playing in the Boise State bracket, possibly. I don't know, but like they are probably playing this weekend, and so there's a lot. Not even with as an atrocious as the defenses you've seen since the D'Onofrio age. And it's like, I thought to myself, because, we all were around for, Coach D'Onofrio, Coach Golden, and remember those defenses, but I never remember being this frustrated. I never remember those defenses are at least bend but don't break. That's the kind of feel. And then even if those defenses weren't good, all the players were. So they all went and played. Some of them are still playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're talking about not being disappointed. Like the picture
No.
Wait. The picture of Georgia Tech 1st and goal on the 3-yard line with Thurston Armbrister lined up underneath the goalpost still exists on social media. What are we like? I get
no.
There is a little bit of like recency bias to it, but like those defenses were, yo, buddy, hold on a second. Like those, I feel like
I don't remember being as frustrated during the D'Onofrio era as I had been this year under the Guidry era.
I think that
no, it's been a long time.
No, it derailed the Miami season before you could have expectations, before you could get to the point of being like, oh, we have this championship caliber team and we're going to waste it. I think that up front with D'Onofrio, it was like, oh yeah, that's not even possible. And therefore, like the level of disappointment was still palpable, but not the same.
You know, Brandon was right. When he called the D'Onofrio defense a bend but not broke defense, he was right there. Sorry about my dogs. But the Guidry defense was just a break defense. It was just a break defense.
There were moments during the D'Onofrio era where stops were gotten. And I never remember a time during this season outside of like early on in the Syracuse game, which is why not icing that game and not running the ball and kind of getting out of there with a very low win and playing the ball control thing that Georgia Tech did. I never understood why that didn't take place, because you were getting stops from a defense that you never get stops from outside of Florida State. Like
I
you
disagree.
just weren't getting those.
Look, in the second half of these comeback wins early in the season, it flipped in the third and fourth quarters. Look at Virginia Tech. You're down. Then it became lockdown. Look at Cal, 35-7, right? And then also, like, the stops were not, it wasn't the 2001 Miami Hurricanes defense, right? It was not that. But to say that there were not adjustments and there were not stops, I think is faulty. I think that we're looking, if you look at
not as many though. It just
there
wasn't
were not
as many.
No, there were not as many. But when we needed it, look at the Louisville game.
Cam, you had to score 40 points a game just to win.
I understand. You did have to score all those points. There were breakdown after breakdown after breakdown.
Yeah, one good game, Florida. That's it.
But I'm telling you, I think that while Lance Guidry had to go, I think that maybe his level of culpability is not as super duper high, only because the defense did the job for part of these games to allow.
So wait a minute.
Him.
No, wait, is less culpable than D'Onofrio?
No. Come on, man.
Let me finish my thought. Can I finish my thought? Without the defense getting the stops that they got, few though they were, right? Without that happening, Miami is not even a 10-win team in the regular season. I am not saying that they were the best team in the world, but they created the opportunity for the offense to go and score enough points to win. Had they given up 55 and 60, which they were on track to in some of these games, then we don't even have that opportunity. It was still bad and he still had to go. But I think that you're forgetting what actually happened in these third quarters when Miami was like plus 200 on the score sheet all season long. That happened as well.
Cam, they weren't getting Scots. It was last man with the ball in every game you mentioned. Stop they got, a dude from offense came in and played safety and batted the ball down. I'm telling you.
But look at the drives before that. They had to get the stops to get the ball.
No, they weren't getting stops. They were letting them get touchdowns.
Time out for 1 second.
Come on.
Listen. What is the role of the defense, Cam? Like, what's their priority? Their
priority is to stop the opposing team from scoring.
And guess what? They didn't do that enough. They failed.
True. I agree. They did not do it enough, but they did it in certain instances, which gave this legendary offense the opportunity to go and show their thing.
That's like if you have a wide receiver that drops every ball except for 3. Are you going to give him credit for the 3 or the 27 that he dropped?
I mean, we're going to talk about both. I mean, shout out to D.
Okay. No, we're not. No. We can get up. We've got to change the topic because we don't want to get on this. I just have a question just for Canes fans and for my own personal.
Okay.
If the D'Onofrio defenses, take the best one you had, because he was around longer than Guidry. Guidry only had 2 seasons. D'Onofrio, I think, had 3 or 4. I lose track.
Sure.
Would the best D'Onofrio run defense have gotten you to a championship in the ACC and or a CFP or no? So meaning if you had said, take Guidry out and put D'Onofrio in and the way he ran things and the production he had, is this team 1 win better?
That's an interesting question. And again, I'm not saying that Guidry should have kept his job. I'm just highlighting that the job was done a little bit in a couple of specific instances. But me wait. Me saying that does not cover for all the shenanigans. I'm not saying that, but also it's not black and white. It's not 100% bad or 100% good. I'm just saying there's a little bit more gray than you're giving.
Okay, so grade him. Grade
Give a grade. Yeah.
B minus. I mean, well, actually, not even, because I wrote after the Georgia Tech game that it was fireable. So, like, I said that he should be fired. I'm on board with that. I'm just adding a little bit of context to the conversation that I believe has been completely overlooked out of the hurt emotions of not moving forward and not doing the job all the way through the season,
sober,
which I'm upset about as well.
Committed malpractice. It was defensive malpractice this year because he continued to do the same things over and over and over again. I talked to people. They were like, look, the defense is losing the battles from the snap. They're in the wrong alignments. Nobody could win. The best defensive players in the world couldn't win in the positions they've been put in.
And
that's
I'm not controverting
that's
that.
Coordinator.
I'm not saying anything other than that. I'm just adding that, like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And, like, even though he needed to get fired and the job was not and the job was not done, that does not mean that there were not good moments. And some of those good moments happened in these shootout games to allow the offense the opportunity to come back and be exceptional. That's all I'm saying, guys.
The last 11 minutes makes me really miss you guys. I just wanted you to know that. Cam, let's get off the defense for a moment. Just your thoughts on 2024 success, not a success. What your thoughts generally?
Before the season, I predicted, this was all in season. I said it needs to be 11-1, go to Charlotte for the ACC championship game, and then the college football playoff. Anything short of that is a failure. By my own definition that I provided, the season is a failure. You went all in, you spent all this money, you got the best quarterback in college football away from last year's NFL draft to come here and quarterback this team, and then spent even more. You got Sammy Brown, you got Damian Martinez, you got a couple of defensive players as well, Tyler Barron after that fact. And you said, hey, chips to the center of the table.
Either one of those guys.
Right. We're going all in. And it needed to, at a floor, be 11-1 in the regular season. We fell short of that. I'm sorry. That's a failure. And then you spin that forward into the world of recruiting. I think that I'm very displeased by the quality of this class. I think that this was a huge miss. I know I've heard other people say, well, really, if recruiting is a 2-year cycle, you're going to see a better class next year than this year for Miami. So you had a top 8 class top 10 class, and then a top 5 class coming off of 5 and 7, and then 7 and 5. And then you expect me to believe during the duration of an undefeated season through the majority of it, that this class would, by definition, be inferior to the previous classes? No, my friend. I am very upset by that. And I've said that. I do think that, in the future of this episode, when we talk about the transfer portal, we've closed some of those gaps that exist from the recruiting trail. But I think this is very, very substandard for the recruiting for where this program needs to be, because, again, the standard is the standard at Miami. And as a Miami Hurricane alum, the standard is championships. And I don't believe that this recruiting class is a championship recruiting class in total. So, yeah, I think this season's a little bit of a failure. Sorry.
All right. I personally, I'm not sure if it was a failure, but it certainly was a waste, because you wasted a generational talent at quarterback and a record-breaking offense, and the ability
I wouldn't call it a waste.
I think it was. I think it was a waste. You
brought listen, and like you said, I like what you said, Cam. You said don't let perfection be the enemy of good. The deal is this: it wasn't a waste. Miami was a national conversation piece and taken very seriously as a program until the Georgia Tech loss. So for 9 weeks, and even in the preseason, Miami was ranked in the top 10, top 15, taken super seriously. And we haven't seen that in quite some time. Even when they lost at Tech, they were still considered to be one of the best offenses, crazily bad on defense. But I think that you can't say waste just because all that positive publicity is good for the program. I say it's an unfortunate miss. I think this season was a miss. It was a big miss. Wasn't a waste, but it was a really big miss.
Now we're playing semantics. So
no, we're not. The semantics
we're
of
kind
that.
of playing semantics.
Yeah, that's a cute word.
Waste,
but I'm just saying,
first miss.
A waste and a miss are different.
Okay,
waste, miss, failure. We've all basically said the same thing, wrapped up differently. I agree with Beast. We're really playing semantics, but like I also like everything not being black and white. I can see how on field that this was a more successful.
You just cut out your mic. You're muted. We can't hear you, Cam. I mean, your mouth is moving, but we can't hear you. Which is probably Brandon might be happy.
Well, no, I like differing views, and he'll come back here in a second.
Right.
But this is why I say miss versus waste, and Cam will come back and explain what he's thinking. Miss means we had the last shot in the game 7, and it was wide open, and we had our best shooter, and we didn't knock it down.
Correct.
That's a miss. A waste is we got to the last game, and we just laid a big egg, and the game was never close. That's what. So you want to semantically break it down.
I'm looking at the 35,000-foot macro view of you have a generational player at the most important position in sports with the talent around him to be good enough to set all sorts of records and have the best offense in college football and Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's what I look at. Cam, waste versus miss. He wants you to set the record straight on that.
I'm going to keep with my, so we have 3 different ones: waste, miss, failure. Like, to me, I hear the analogy of the game 7 of the finals. You get there, fine. I want the 15-foot pull up for my best player. If we miss it, we miss it. It's a failure to me because we didn't even get there. That's my thing. You had all of this. You put it around Cam Ward and said, look, take us to the promised land. And we went where? Back to Orlando, to Camping World Stadium for the whatever, but Russell Athletic, Pop-Tarts, Champ Sports, the same goddamn bowl game we've been to 8 million times under 10 different names? Bro, no, that's a fail. It is a failure for this team that was built, like we said, with the best quarterback in America, and the best generational player, the best quarterback Miami Hurricanes fans have ever seen over a single season, and not even get to the dance. No, that is a failure to me. But still, a more successful season on the field than we've seen, but relative to the expectation of the standard being the standard of competing for and winning championships at the University of Miami, failure, period.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to get to the portal and how that, trying to make up for recruiting situations. And then we'll spend just a couple of minutes with some CFP thoughts. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He's Brandon O'Doy. He is Cam Underwood. I am Brian the Beast London. We are all here just hashing it out like we do in the press box every Saturday. Although during the break, Cam and Brandon both had to just take a few woosahs. But that's okay. Boys, let's get to this portal. I mean, the age of college football, it's just craziness, just absolute craziness. As I look down at the list of guys that left, the Jaden Harrises, the Zion Nelsons, Antonio Trips, Deani Hill, Riley Williams, Ethan O'Connor, Alex Bowman, some guys I haven't even, Alex Bowman is an incoming and Ethan O'Connor is an incoming, but guys, some of these guys I haven't heard of. Right. But I would say this, I think the only one that I said to myself, man, we could really use that guy next year is Isaiah Horton. I think that's the one guy that I say to myself, you know what? Because I think I was really expecting that young man to take the next step and really come into his own next season. No one else on this list, right? Like Zion Nelson, I had written off like a year ago as to never playing again. Everybody else, Jaden Harris, Deani Hill, like did nothing for them. Really, is there any, like Riley Williams? Okay, it would have been nice to have, but you could replace that. I think Zay Horton is the only guy that I say to myself, okay, that's a loss. Now, did we make up for it from the kid we brought in from LSU? I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But that's how I feel. What are we thinking about the portal here?
The only one that I'm going to add to that list, I think Isaiah Horton is a huge departure because he was in line to be, the number one receiver on this team. The other one that I have to say, and I know that everyone watching and listening is clamoring because they've had, their hands on him in college football 25 on the sticks when you play your Miami Hurricanes dynasty.
I know where you're going.
Chris Johnson Jr.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I know he was a two-time defending state champion in the 100 and 200 from Fort Lauderdale Dillard. Did not go for the three-peat because he enrolled early at the University of Miami to play football. That's the only reason he wasn't a three-time double champion in those sprint events. He's electric fast. We saw the swing pass for a touchdown. He was a half step away from breaking a couple kickoff returns, but got tripped up by, a shoestring and things like that. He's a dynamic playmaker, and I know we wanted to get him on the field more. My thing is this. If you're playing the best player, which you should, you can really look at number 21. Jesus, what is his name? Jordan Lyle.
Yes.
Those are the snaps that could have gone to Chris Johnson if Chris Johnson would have beat Jordan Lyle out at that position. Otherwise, you have the number one offense in America. Who are you taking snaps from? Are you going to take the freshman and put him on ice and say you have to redshirt because we have an older player? But hey, like we said, we're going to play the best player at the position, and you're not taking snaps away from Fletcher or Martinez at the top of the rotation. And then AJ Allen also is in that. It was a situation of circumstance that Miami had legitimately 5 running backs who could start here last year. There's only, enough carries, enough catches and things to go around. So that was kind of just a situation of circumstance where he didn't have the opportunity to get the ball enough. He is following umpteen Miami Hurricane transfers and going to SMU. I think that he's going to be a breakout star next year. He could eclipse what Rashard Smith did.
Rashard Smith. Yeah.
I mean, Rashard Smith has exactly 1,300 yards. Right. Yeah. But that's the other one that I have to say.
Read another speedy. I mean, here's the thing, and you got to go through these people to get an ACC championship.
Right.
Like that's the thing I don't like about it. It's like you've given Rhett Brashard, you've given Rhett CJ. These two dudes are notably fast. Okay. So now they get in this wide open SMU offense with a guy that has a brain for plays and they're motivated. You know what I mean? The only good thing about if you're Miami at SMU is a lot of that defensive line talent kind of flushes out because basically it was the Miami Mustangs. Because if you look at Harrison Hunt,
Roberts,
the big dude, George from Columbus, I can't think of his name, number 5, Elijah Roberts, and then the guy that I was really, really hurt to see go, who set the edge a lot from Vero. I mean, up the road in the Palm Beach area. Can't think of his name.
Jafari Harvey.
Yeah, Jafari. Like those 3 dudes, Hunt, Jafar Harvey, and Roberts. Why did they? If you could take them back from SMU and put them on this Miami Hurricane team, because those guys got after the quarterback, and that's what we didn't have.
Yeah.
If you left them alone with Ruben Bain and all these freshmen, my God, what could you have accomplished? And I would have held Mr. Martinez off. Hey, Brashard, come on in. And if Brashard wants to leave, okay, fine. But allow CJ to groom. You knew Fletcher was coming back. We didn't know, but you knew. So let CJ into the role. Let Howard into the role. Like, you had a lot of talent. It's kind of like, did you over recruit? Because at some point, you got to have minutes for the guys that you have in your stable. Right. Even a guy, even AJ Allen, like he was killing dudes at the end of games. I wouldn't have let him walk.
See, but the thing about it is,
bench and 20 yards a pop. No way. Watch what he's about to be all conference at FIU.
This is the other side of that recruiting coin. And remember, we talk about this every single year. Remember when we got Jalen Knighton and Donald Chaney in the same recruiting class, the best back in Dade and the best back in Broward. And then what did everybody say? What about Henry Parrish? Dog! What are you talking about? We can't take everybody. But then we go and say, you know what? We're going to take most everybody. We're going to take all these guys and work it out. This is what happens. Football. Somebody's going to get upset when you're talking about a position, not receiver, where you can play 3, 4, and 5 at a time. But running back, dog, you can bring them all in and let it sort itself out.
More than 3 good backs.
It being sorted. This is what happens when you take these guys and all of them.
Cam, we've seen this before, though, at Miami, right? Because at one point in time, they had Frank Gore, Clinton Portis, Willis McGahee, Jarrett Payton.
Different time period.
No, I understand that, but they did have Najee Davenport. They had 5 guys in the same room. And the way
they were winning championships,
right? But the way they figured it out is they played a different offense, and they put Najee at fullback, and they ended up starting Willis McGahee in the national championship game at fullback. So they kind of made it work. And Jarrett didn't get a lot of run that year, but a little bit. So what have you? But Brandon and I have talked about this before, Cam, which is roster management.
Yeah,
and this has to do with the recruiting process versus the portal process, and blending that all together to make sure that your team that you have has the right amount of upperclassmen, freshmen, and how do you play them all? How do you make everyone happy? All of this stuff. It's a huge part of college football.
It's hard. And listen, I've given D-Train a ton of credit. I don't think you can criticize the moves they made because some things you just don't know. And we don't know what we don't know. Right, we don't know what's going on in the locker room. We don't know how guys are presenting. We don't know that you can't reward guys who are doing bad things, behind the scenes, showing up late to meetings, showing up late to workouts, not being team and locker room guys. Like, we have no idea what any of that stuff really means. Like, I mean, we know what it means, but we don't know how that stuff was presenting itself behind the scenes. So when they go and get a Damian, we don't know. Maybe CJ wasn't doing what he was supposed to do behind the scenes. Maybe they were willing to give him a shot and just say, hey, this isn't the year to play games. This guy's not showing up. This guy's not doing this now. This is completely hypothetical. I want to condition that.
Right.
But I'm just saying, we don't know what we don't know. And so we have to trust that they did. I mean, this is the same dude that flipped Cam Ward out of the freaking NFL draft. Like, I mean, that's never been done. And he flipped them, and it looks genius now because the guy's probably going to go number 1, if nothing else, number 3. So,
and by the way,
you're talking about a guy that wouldn't have gone in the first round last year. He made so much money for him. It was just such a good decision, such a great personnel move. It's just, I don't know. You wonder what could have been. And like I say, it's just a missed shot. So it's hard to break it all down. It's just a missed shot to me.
Cam, you want to watch Brandon's head explode right now?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Brandon, what would have happened if Cam Ward committed earlier?
I think we get Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, you're making my head explode. I'm the one who keeps bringing that up. Brandon keeps telling me,
it's not for my head to explode. That's real life.
No, I mean, I just know that, you went to go see him up close and personal at Ohio State. You saw him in person in college and reported back.
This is going to be a generational talent. We all knew it was whatever you needed to do to get the job done. The job didn't get done. At the end of the day, he and his parents made a great choice. He looks great in the scarlet. But, I mean, it's a huge miss. I'm going to tell you where I think the miss was. I think the miss was on not taking his quarterback. I think taking Judd and, all of the miss, I think that will go down as the move that really hurt the JJ sweepstakes.
Yeah, putting a bow on that for everybody. Yeah. Not taking CJ Bailey from Chaminade, letting him go to NC State instead. And we talked about this in the press box.
That was the move we can possibly look back at. Because look, if you do that and you lose Cam Ward, we're not worrying about who the quarterback is because we know who the quarterback of the future is.
Right.
Also,
and Luke Nickel, maybe he decommits because we don't have any room for you. We got JJ's quarterback. We got JoJo's quarterback.
Also, say this before Brandon goes in, before Brian, my starting in blogging and content creation was in recruiting. I used to work in high schools. I've been around all these people for a long time, know people at all these schools still. It was told to me by somebody close to the program in Chaminade, all them dudes in the same class were trying to go together. So that being Zaquan Patterson, JoJo Trader, Jeremiah Smith, the running back Davion Bullet Goss, and CJ Bailey. And the other 4, not CJ, had offers to Miami, and the receivers and running back and safety were trying to pull a power move and saying, we're not coming unless you offer our quarterback. And then there was a little bit of a power struggle with the powers that be at the University of Miami.
He didn't want to be the fifth wheel at the end of the day.
Exactly. So then he looked for his own path forward.
And it was Miami's job to not make him feel like that. And then look at the evaluation. It obviously didn't hold up because he went to NC State and got them to a bowl.
And
he wasn't supposed to play this
year. Be there and start. Bullet Goss is, somewhere where
now, do you think Judd Anderson or whatever his name is could have gone to NC State and done that? I got an answer for you. No.
Right.
Never.
So, take that with a grain of salt. That's just what I heard at the time. So, yeah. But again, Beast wanted to make Brandon's head explode. It's my head exploding on that.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm thrown off by that.
Because I don't cry over spilled milk. It happened. Dante Moore, it happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, it happened. Guys, it happened. It's done. Let's move forward. Now, let's get to you, and I don't want to manage your show, but why haven't you asked us who the quarterback of the future?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
No.
That's why I've had my hands up for 10 minutes.
You ain't doing your job.
I've had my hands up for 10 minutes trying to get you guys to stop.
Because you got both of us on here. You know how we are. You know how it is. Don't cry.
Is the quarterback who will be starting in 2025 on the roster? And if he's not, who is going to be that person?
I'm going to go first. I'm going to go very quickly. If the roster remains as it currently is, being Emory, Judd, and Luke Nickel, it has to be Luke Nickel. Period. Full stop. The end. I don't want to talk about anything else. Period. If
I
it is only
give the young boy the ball.
It is only these 3.
Wow.
Emory has shown that he ain't got the range. Sorry, boss. Now, do I think that if we add somebody, it would need to be somebody of a higher caliber who can be a top-level game manager? If it were in order of preference for me in the transfer portal, if they decided to do this instead of going to the NFL draft, in my personal order of preference, it would be Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, and Jalen Milroe in that order. I'm not even saying that is possible. I'm saying if one of them or those 3 were the options, that's where I would go.
Brandon, before you...
I don't want Ewers because I don't want to overspend for another quarterback that ain't going to produce. I definitely don't want Beck. I'll take Milroe. But the guy that I wanted is going to Iowa. The guy from South Dakota State. Have you ever seen that dude? He's the real deal.
He's really good, yeah.
But see, I'm of the opinion you spent so much money. It's an 8 or 9 win season. You don't even have a DC, man. Don't overspend. Play. No, it ain't 7.
It's an
8 win season.
7 and 5 prove me wrong. That's where I am. 7 and 5 prove me wrong. I immediately. That's where I've been for years.
7 and 5 before the quarterback market is closed.
Right,
but Mario and D-Train ain't going to sleep. Boy, them boys don't sleep.
Hey,
all right,
they're working. They're not going to
get that quarterback in the top.
Wait. You guys know more about the stuff than I do, but like, literally, do they have enough money to pull a quick?
Money is not an issue. Stop talking about money. It's South Beach.
But
this is again, come on.
Last year,
this game.
Last year, wouldn't
we got money. It's plenty of money out here. We ain't worried. Don't count the pockets. We got plenty of money. That's why everybody's mad. Everybody's mad because we got the bag. We got the bag. It's how we spend it. I don't want to overspend. I don't want to overspend. Let's get ready for next year.
Brandon, let him talk.
Next year. Get the ball to Luke.
Brandon.
Give the ball to Luke. Let him go. Find the defense, man. Play defense.
Let him talk.
He knows. It's my last.
Wait a minute. Now your mic went. Now you're on mute. Now he's on mute.
Last show I gotta do. Wait.
We haven't announced that yet. So let's just not get ahead of ourselves. This is what I wanted to bring up. All last season, I was hearing, we spent too much on offense and not enough on defense, and that's why we're in this position. Granted, we didn't know that the coordinator was going to also fail, but that's a whole part of this roster management is now you have to talk about expenditure of dollars. So if you go and take a Milroe or Ewers or whoever, that means some position is going to lose money somehow. right?
Yeah,
That's
but
just the nature of it.
I agree, but also, I mean, look, if you're looking, from an investment profile, right? If you look at the return on investment on whatever you spent on Cam Ward, yeah, infinite profit on that, right? So, okay, cool. And look, we went and tried to spend some of that money. DJ Pickett decided to take a bigger bag and go to LSU. We can reallocate those funds. It's one of those, we got plenty of money. It's really just looking at what is the return on investment and talking about my prediction. I was kind of, bought in with Mark Richt. It fell apart. And I said, look, from here on out, I'm saying 7-5 and prove me wrong. They went in a very different direction, spent this money last year. So I said, cool, I'm going to raise, because they told me by their actions, the Hurricanes football program, that they were pushing for championships. So I said, cool, I will meet you at the level of what you are saying and I will elevate. And then they fell short of those expectations. Now, right back to 7-5, prove me wrong, but I will leave that open for debate, because you're saying, oh, well, what if there's a quarterback who joins this roster? If that happens, I will relitigate this. But right here today, January the 9th, 7-5, prove me wrong.
I would say this. In D-Train, I trust. I feel like there's going to be a quarterback added. I just feel like that's the case.
You're not gonna get me off your train. No pun intended.
Right.
When you just pulled the dude that was a general. You got my trust from here on out.
Right.
You got to show me you can't do it no more before I'm going to second guess you. So I'm all in on D-Train and whatever he has up his sleeve. The question is, how can you manage the defense? And that's beyond that, because it's not just whoever you go get, who's going to come in here and run it.
Well, I will say,
anyone have any clues? Anyone have any thoughts? Anyone have any opinions on who should run the defense, or what type of person should run a defense, or what their qualifications should be, or what their makeup should be?
Before I even get to that, I think that, better ingredients, better pizza. You know what I mean? Like, I think that
you had the ingredients. No. You
Brandon,
had the ingredients.
Brandon.
You had a D line.
Brandon.
It was supposed to cover all.
But did you really have a D line?
Right. No, you and I and everybody all
you
season
really have
said,
a D line?
Look, this secondary was going to cost Miami games. We all said it.
You can't buy the whole team, every position. Somebody got to make plays.
You were both there at halftime of one of these home games when Manny Navarro read me for filth, correctly, by the way, for having increased expectations for a secondary that we knew was going to be, at best, bad. And it wasn't even at its best.
But the D-line was supposed to cover those sins.
It was supposed to, but it didn't. That's why
they got paid. You spent money and it didn't work.
Is you have better players, I believe, with higher profile in the secondary next year than you did this year, pretty much across the board, right? And you get a couple corners in, you get a great safety prospect coming in. You got the LLC of Patterson and Poyser starting at safety next year. That makes me feel a lot better. You get guys back, a Damari Brown who basically missed the entire darn season at cornerback. You get him, you get a couple transfers, in at corner, you get these recruits in. I believe that Miami secondary, honestly, it was group of 5 caliber maybe last year, and it played like that.
But
no, it was that kind of bad, and
I watched group of 5
bore itself out to be true.
It wasn't that bad, but
it really was that bad. But now you have better players at that level. You still have very good linebackers, and hopefully you get more out of the defensive line, who, yes, underperformed.
Kiko had the worst season he had in 2 years. Kiko wet the bed.
Well, he ended up having to cover running backs going out.
Well, that's what a linebacker does. So welcome to 2024 football. Like, that's how that goes.
But also, Ruben played with a hamstring most of the year.
I ain't even worried about him running. Where's the tackling? The tackling was bad.
All of that. But
all right, fellas,
if you're not moving, you're not in a position to make a tackle, all those kind of things. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better. But I think with better players, then we can have better performance.
Let's just talk about the defense real quick. Looking in the future, what kind of guy should they be looking for?
Someone aggressive. I want to get up the field. I would like to see a little bit maybe of different technique coaching along the defensive line. I think something that was under discussed was the reliance on stunts and twists. with the defensive line, and that got us out of position and allowed these quarterbacks, even ones who aren't really athletic, to get outside of the pocket with no kind of discipline. So, I still want to have, obviously I know that he's a head coach now, but, someone of the kind of similar mentality to like a Manny Diaz, like let's bring the pressure, let's get there. But also, not just having the back end being, exposed in the way that Lance Guidry let his defense this year.
I wanted Ryan Williams from Purdue. I said it as soon as he was fired. I think that was the miss. He was perfect head coach. He's of no sort of ego type of guy. Really had really good defenses at Mizzou. He just wasn't ready to be a head coach, and Purdue's a hard place to win. And I don't know that they were supporting him with NIL as much as he probably needed. And then Indiana was good too. So you've never really seen both of those teams really good at the same time. But yeah, I don't want to go the young guy route. I think crafty vet, a guy that's been there, done that, a guy that understands the kind of kids that have to play and succeed at Miami and kind of let it all hang out. This defense has to be exciting. It can't be a sit back and let stuff happen to me defense. It's got to be an attack defense. It's got to utilize speed and skill. It's got to have trench play. It's got to be nasty. You just need somebody with,
it's got to get turnovers.
A vision for, you got to what?
Get turnovers.
Yeah, we got rid of the turnover chain, but it seemed like we got rid of the turnovers with it.
Correct, yes.
If that's going to happen, that turnover year, bro, it seemed like they were turning the ball over non-stop.
Right, but that was Manny's style of defense.
It was just, it was just at any moment and in key moments during the games. And kids just knew they were going into the game and was like, I got to have that chain.
That's why I said someone of that same kind of structure and mentality.
And I don't have enough knowledge of who's out there, but Williams was definitely at the top of my list.
I'll put it to you like this. I've said it in other places. I've written it on stateoftheu.com. Miami has enough money where we can go get somebody off of their good job. So it's not about who's out there.
Yeah, they tried to go get the guy from Tennessee, and he hasn't budged yet.
Right. Hey, but I'm not saying it's going to be get everybody up off of their good job. But if we have hired other guys from their good jobs.
I don't want to pay a guy $2 million to come do what we just saw. We don't need that. 40 points a game, we don't need that.
We can litigate who it is and everything. But my caveat is, do not only look at who is currently without employment. That is not a barrier for entry with the money that Miami
I don't think that is at all. I think
will and have.
Mario are saying, look, we got bread. Come do it. But I think the conversation back is, okay, you had Cam Ward last year. Who you going to have? And that's why the conversations have stalled. Okay, I'm coming in to run a defense. I ain't got no problem with that player. But what kind of offense we going to be having? Are we going to be on the field all day? We ain't with that.
But we still got two of the top 5 corners, the number 2 safety in the transfer portal.
You got to be able to move the ball, boy. Boss, you got to be able to move the ball. I don't care. If I'm the DC, I want to know who that OC
That's on
is.
the offense.
I want to know who that quarterback is. I need to know.
My point is, we still went and got very talented guys on defense to transfer to the University of Miami, absent of having a defensive
What did Dave Aranda say? He said, we're paying players.
That's fine.
That's why we're getting them.
And that is the landscape of college football right now. I'm entirely with it. But we're also going to go pay a coordinator. So it's you can't say it in one side and then not on the other is my point.
So get one in. So get one in. You ain't got one for me yet. We didn't
have one at this point before we hired Lance Guidry. You know as well as anybody that Mario is very, very meticulous about his interview process.
Absolutely.
Sit back, relax, let him cook, and we're going to be all right.
I'm patient. Let's go.
All right, fellas, real quick before we get out of here, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon, so we're going to get one playoff game tonight, one playoff game tomorrow. So I don't want to predict what's going to happen because I don't want us to sound like idiots, but how do you think this 12-team college football playoff has gone?
I think it's shown that the SEC being the best conference is, for the second year in a row, an overhyped statement. The SEC pays too many people, employs too many people. There are too many writers. Guys, you guys are not as good as you're trying to make yourself seem. Turn on a football game outside of your conference. The Big Ten has been the best conference for at least the last 2 years. At least. The Big Ten has every chance to win this year. Notre Dame is basically a Big Ten team. It's in Big Ten country. That kind of run the ball, power, play defense, take shots when you can type format is what everything is about right now in college football. So, I mean, you have to play all these games. That's what stands out. You guys say you're beating each other up. You're on the Saban model. You're living in the Saban era. That era is over. Stop getting these big old dudes that's hurting everybody, and everybody on your team is hurt. Play football. You know what I mean? Get depth. We all have to have it. You got to be able to play 17, 18 games to win. It's not an excuse. You're not the only ones doing it. You think there's not real football played in these other conferences? Then how did Notre Dame beat Georgia? Like, it's happening. This is real life. How did Michigan beat Alabama last year? This is really happening. This is not a drill. It's not about, oh, we play all these tough games in the conference. If y'all are so good, how come you can't beat these other teams? And now it's up to Texas, a brand new member who I'm not giving them SEC credibility. They're a Big 12 team. They're a Big 12 team in an SEC dress, and they got to play the best team possibly right now in college football in Ohio State. So we're going to see how that happens, and definitely the best player with Jeremiah Smith. And you're going to have to double him, or you're going to have to triple team him. Because if you don't, that young man is going to make you miss, and he's going to make you pay. So that's how I see it playing out. I predict that, this could either be Ohio State, Penn State rematch or Ohio State, Notre Dame. And I just think Texas in the QB, Quinn's going to have too big of a game. I don't know. I don't see it, but you never know.
I think that the playoff has been interesting. I think styles make fights, and I think we've had some bad style matchups.
Yeah, for sure.
Really along the way. I think that some teams have laid eggs. I think you've seen some of the injury things, and to part, I agree with Brandon and what he said. The SEC has really been one, for all my Spades players out there, it's been one great team and a possible for a long time. You can say that one was Georgia or that one was Alabama, but these other teams have been riding those coattails. And throughout this entire season, the best teams in America are hypothetical SEC teams. Hypothetical Ole Miss, oh my God, they don't ever lose, but they lost 3 games in real life. You know what I mean? So it's been interesting to really see that laid bare and everything. And yeah, it was unfortunate that, Beck had that injury, which really, really, really lowered the ceiling for Georgia because, Gunnar Stockton at this point is not that guy. But yeah, I think it's been interesting. Lots of blowouts. I was really pleased with the Arizona State game because I thought they were going to get run off the field. I think that Sark got too cute in that game, which offensive-minded coaches do sometimes when all you needed to do was just keep running stretch and wide zone because they couldn't stop it. And then you want to go trick play and it's an interception and things like that. But, there have been some entertaining games. I think that, in the guise of styles making fights, I think these semifinals are going to be really engaging. I think these are going to be really tight games. As a native Michigander who grew up as a Michigan Wolverine and graduated from the University of Miami, there's no one I want to see win less than Ohio State. So please, Lord, Texas, do the Lord's work. I mean, I just need it to happen. So, we're going to see what's going to happen.
I'm, listen, as a Canes fan, I'm not for, well, yeah, we know. I am anti-Ohio State. I'm also anti-Notre Dame. By the way, Al Golden, everyone. I'm also anti-Penn State.
Al Golden winning a national championship before the Canes.
Yeah.
That wasn't on your bingo card.
How about he's back at Hard Rock playing against his alma mater? There's all sorts of storylines there.
Storylines for days.
So I don't know who to root for in this one, but I do know this. One, I loved the home games. I loved like being on campus for some of these games. And 2, Oregon. Wow. I mean,
they pretended all. It's only so long fake thugs can pretend. They pretended for a long time.
I agree. They window dressed Hood really, really well, and all of a sudden, some real gangsters rolled up and they weren't ready.
All right, fellas. Listen, I appreciate your time, Brandon. This may or may not be your last appearance on the Real Ones Canes podcast. We will see. We'll see what happens moving forward. Some things are changing. Some things are moving. Some paradigms are shifting. All of that stuff. Cam has agreed to join me whenever we decide to do this again. So we will do that. But
He's the man.
from the bottom of my heart, you guys know that I love you both dearly. I have so much appreciation for both of you, and I'm just so happy. I can't wait till next August or September when we're back together, just like three old men, like the dudes in the Muppets, just yelling at each other. But that's okay. Hey, to everyone out there, enjoy the CFP. And we'll see where this portal and recruiting and all this stuff takes us. And we'll see you next time right here on the Real Ones Canes podcast. Peace.